Hi, good morning. Today's reading is in Psalms chapter 15. We are going to be talking about in Psalms 15 a psalm of David. Remember, the word psalm means an instrumental poem or song that was sung, usually by musicians. So, whenever you see the word psalm, it just means pretty much song notes. I'm broadcasting this morning out of Psalms 15 or out of my home there in reference to Psalm 15. So, please enjoy as we are reading through. Yahweh, who shall abide in thy tabernacle? Who shall dwell in thy holy hill? David asked a very pretty plain question. Who can even abide in you or with you or even in your holy hill? Okay, so tabernacle means your dwelling place or with you. Obviously, is meaning where the temple is, or dwell in thy holy hill, meaning where Jerusalem is. This could be symbolic, it could also be figurative. Either way, he's talking about who could even be around you, God, who can even be around the Lord. Now, look at the requirements here as David kind of brings that type of declaration. He that walks uprightly. In other words, he who has integrity, who walks in truth, is one who can walk uprightly, is one who can do these things. So the question is, he that walks uprightly and who worketh, okay, and the word means like to practice, he who practices righteousness. All right, the word means equity, moral, the right, prosperity, even just. Or in other words, he who is just and speaks truth. All right, and the word is ahmeth, and it means trustworthiness in his heart. All right, deep inside. So there's a definitely a righteousness there that begins. He that walks uprightly and works righteousness and speaks the truth in his heart. That's who can dwell in the tabernacle, or who can even be around God. He that backbiteth not, the word here means a talebearer, slanderer. He who is a person who does not slander with his tongue, nor does evil to his neighbor, nor takes up a reproach. The word reproach means a disgrace, a rebuke. They're not a person who sits there and gossips and talks about people's, oh, that brother is bad. And of course he's talking, it's not about exposing heresy or exposing wickedness as much as it means like you take up a reproach against his neighbor. In other words, you're not looking at the the negative. You're not sitting there. What do you call it? You would say, take your neighbor's faults or their shames that they are ashamed of or that they have faulted in, and sit there and go, oh yeah. So if we, for example, if we were to talk about King David and we were to totally dwell on how bad King David is and how what he did, or even Solomon, or even other of the prophets, and talk about their negativities or their bads, we take up a reproach against their neighbor. It may not even be sometimes our reproach. It may be just something, or something they did to us, but it could be something that they did to other people. I've seen that happen to a lot of people. Sometimes they take other people's problems. For example, if my wife and her friend got into an argument, and then my wife came over to me and she told me, she's like, yeah, me and my blah 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 friend uh, got in an argument, and I said, well, what happened? Oh, she said this to me, and then suddenly I took up a reproach. So I ended up taking her fault, the fault of her friend. I didn't have nothing. Her friend never said anything to me, but I don't like her friend because of what she said to her, and obviously that's natural, But what ends up happening is Suzanne can go and suddenly make reconciliation between her friend, or maybe her friend came and apologized to Suzanne, and said, "Hey, I want to say I'm sorry," and then maybe Suzanne never comes back and tells me that, oh yeah, she came and apologized because she never restored. But I'm still angry at her friend, not knowing that. Then I see Suzanne and her friend, oh, they're just happy, and I'm looking at Suzanne going, what a hypocrite. I can't believe Suzanne is just hanging out with that girl, what she just said to her. But I don't know the background story that they actually reconciled and she came and apologized. So you got to be very careful that you don't take other people's reproach. You don't take other people's cases and be angry angry at them because you just don't know what is happening in that background, okay? Be very careful with that. Whose eyes a vile person is contempt, okay? So it means despised or esteemed, but he honors them that fears the Lord. All right, this is something that we as Christians should honor those who love God. And you know, I've kind of almost saw the opposite. Being out in the streets when we're preaching the gospel, or out in different evangelists are out there preaching the gospel. I've seen Christians who call themselves Christians come out and be like, I can't believe you're preaching hatred. And they're like, we're not preaching hatred, we're preaching the gospel, and that's not the way to do it. And they try to take up the other person's cause. That's not how it works, you know. Um, so what ends up happening is we need to be very careful that we don't hate Christians, and we've seen Christians hate other Christians because they're preaching to sinners. Now, I understand that there's a proper way of doing it because I've seen some people who preach vile, like, you know, they yell at people and tell them you're going to hell, and you know, yell out profanities, what I call profanities, calling people, you know, the whatever words. So that's different versus those who come out and come against Christians for their preaching or their that's not love, they would say, you know. He that swears to his own hurt and changes not. Okay. So again, here's the thing. Who's gonna dwell in your tabernacle? Who's gonna be around you, God? It's the one who doesn't backbite, it's the one who does not evil to his neighbor, nor he takes up a reproach, whose eye a vile person is I mean, a person who does not hate or hates or a vile person. He looks at a vile person, and this is the word vile person means one who's like a despise, one who's like, ooh, you know, but he honors them that fears the Lord. So in other words, he loves righteousness, but he hates evil. Loves righteousness, but hates evil. He that sweareth to his own hurt and changes not. In other words, they sacrifice. They make sacrifices even if it's not to their benefit. They will sacrifice. And some people, unfortunately, they're like, okay, I'll give, or I'll do this, but they always examine themselves first. They're like, do I, you know, is it going to benefit me or is it not going to benefit me? The one who does it, even if it hurts them, is blessed. He that puts not out his money for usury, and the word means interest on a debt. Like if your brother, who's the Bible commands this, it says, if a brother comes to you and they are poor, or they're going through something, and they're in need, and you're like, yeah, I'll lend you money, but I'm gonna charge you interest, you know. And I'm not just talking, it's not just minor interest, but it's extraordinary interest. It's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna charge you interest, you know, and that interest could be crazy, extreme, whatever it is. That's a sin. Christians are not called to put out their money, and the word says put out the money. It means kind of in a sense like, hey, I'm a lender. I'll lend you money. I'll lend you money, but you're going to pay me interest, and that interest is to hurt the brother or hurt the sister. So we should be, when a person is in debt and they're hurting and they're like, I need help here, and you should not take advantage of a person by lending them money with extreme interest. That's what usually is, and that's what the Bible talks about. That if we give out interest in the sense that it is extreme, nor takes a reward against the innocent. Okay. This is kind of like weird. It means like a donation, so the reward's like, oh, what am I taking a reward against the innocent? In other words, you've seen this happen before. You've seen people who taken advantage of something, and then, like, there was a long time ago, there was that 9/11, what do you call it, fund, you know, for fallen heroes. There were a lot of people who were taking advantage of that. They were going around saying, hey, we need money, we're going to take this money and we're going to donate it to such and such, but in reality they were putting it in their pocket. They were using it for themselves. It happens a lot on GoFunds and stuff like that, where people come out and they're like, hey, give us donations for these people, but they ended up putting in their pocket and they end up using the money for their own selves. He that does these things shall never be moved. In other words, if you don't do these bad things, but you're doing the right things, you're going to find yourself abiding in the tabernacle. These are very strong, things, but they're really issues of integrity. They're things of morality. A person who wants to walk with God and do what is right, and serve the Lord, this is the way you're going to find yourself dwelling with God. Otherwise, good luck. It's not going to happen. So Psalms 15. Thanks for joining me this morning. Make sure you subscribe and hit notifications for other commentary and other things that you can find that will be available for you for future growth and strength in the Lord. God bless.